It's really interesting because how many comments did we get saying the new UI for the game looks like a mobile game? They clearly haven't looked at Football Manager, the mobile game, because the Football Manager, the mobile game, looks like Football Manager looked like 20 years ago.
Usually what we'll say to anyone who starts a brand new save on Football Manager, start with a team you know, so therefore you understand how it plays and you understand the tactics of the players. So naturally, I started as Shimizu S Pulse in the J2 Japanese league, because why wouldn't I?
We all have the same thing, is that we're entering it with our Football Manager brains on, our Football Manager desktop brains on, rather than entering it. It's just a standalone mobile game. Just judge it as a mobile game sort of thing. And if you don't really like this, then maybe you're just not really a mobile game player.
It's like watching BBC and ITV. Watch ITV, just knowing it's different, right? Okay, it's like TV, but worse. Hello everyone and welcome to the FM show. I am your host, Tony Jameson. Joining me, as always, is my right-hand man, the tactical mastermind, RDF Tactics, aka Aaron Falloon. But Aaron, it's not just me and you anymore. Ooh, going forward, as of this week, joining us is the newest member of the FM show. It's Maggio. Si, how are you, pal? Are you well?
I'm good. It has been hot this week, but the red mark on my nose is because I hit myself in the face with a football. So yeah, that's how good I am. It wasn't. I took a shot and it rebounded into my face. So yeah, the shot was good, but that's how it was. But I'm very good. I'm happy to be sat in this seat, keeping it warm for all the lovely guests we got coming up, because there's some really good ones in the next couple of weeks.
I was going to say, yeah, we have definitely started planning ahead, and Si's been beavering away in the background, hasn't he, Aaron? You know, he's not been in the last couple of weeks, but he has been there, obviously, when we had the Zealand show, the Kev show, but Si has very much been part of the team, and we're really looking forward to seeing him go and help push the show on. Aaron, are we gonna call him producer Si?
Oh, you know what? He has been more of a director of football for us, you know, at the moment. He has played a nice little role here for us. And I don't know, like, we've been taking some feedback as well from our Patreons, and sometimes it can be difficult with just me and Tony. But with Si coming in, the new ideas, like I said, the director of football, the new ideas, it has improved the show a lot. And you can see as well from the last couple of episodes already, so I'm quite excited for the future.
Yeah. Just in case anyone's curious, Si's been doing the thumbnails as well. So that's the first thing, a very visible thing he's doing.
I know wore an Italian football team shirt. I think that's a prerequisite as well, isn't it? I think that was one of the conditions of the contract.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Make sure you turn up and rep Italian football.
Yeah, absolutely. So Si, welcome on board. Of course, you've been with us before. You've done loads of shows with us previously. We, of course, worked together a lot, so you've worked with Aaron a lot as well. So it felt natural to get Si in. And as we say, we've been talking about these sort of ideas for episodes and what they're going to be and how they're going to look going forward. And today's episode, Si, I'm potentially going to chuck you under the bus here because this is one of your ideas. FM Mobile.
Yeah, so here's the thing. We all play the PC game, but Football Manager isn't just the PC game. There is the console version, which I've been trying a lot of recently. And there is the mobile version, and there is the touch version. And I thought, considering the mobile version is free with Netflix, and everyone and their mother has Netflix or shares Netflix with someone, why don't we give it a go and actually see what it's like and see whether it's worth playing, because there's got to be a lot of people out there who play it. I mean, we've seen Football Manager's numbers have risen. Was it 10 million this year, which is double what they had last year already? And a lot of that has got to be down to console and mobile. There might be people tuning into this show for the first time who are mobile Football Manager players, and maybe they want to know the difference between the versions, or perhaps they just want a little bit of perspective on whether we think that game is any good or not.
There you go. So I suppose, first of all, then the question is, out of our three, who before this week has played FM Mobile? I'm going to go right now. I've never touched it. Right? Okay, this is completely brand new this week. I even had to ask Mrs. J what the Netflix password login was. So that's where I am. Aaron?
I think I played an old one.
I've downloaded it. So when it comes out, I always
one.
do the thing of just downloading it just so I have it. And it tends to end up the same as I go on a journey. Because I'm a father. So it ends up, we're going on a journey to Oxford, for an example. I log in, open up Football Manager, one of the kids kick off, and then that's that. You just completely forget about it. But also, it's just because you know in the back of your head it's not the full fat version. Which
right,
is
hang on. I want a
way
klaxon.
to go into it.
Sorry, I want a klaxon at this point, right? I'm aware I've just spoken over you, Aaron, right? I'm not having, it's not the full fat version, okay? Right? At this point in the conversation going forward, I want us to accept FM Mobile is a different game on its own.
I was literally just about to say that. I was like, but at the same, like, you can't go in with it with that perspective. It's only when like we come up with this episode, it's been like, I don't want to put it in a bad way. You sort of force yourself to play it. Like, you can't just give up on it because you need to talk about it. So you need to see things. It's only then I'm like, okay, now I'm getting, this feels like a very good mobile game. And it's a mobile game. It can take up a lot of your time as well if you're not careful. It's the same as, in that regard, it's the same as a PC version. Like, you can get really invested in what's going on and it can take up a lot of time. And a lot of us on our mobile phones already anyway, so it can be dangerous in that regard.
Si, is that ringing bells for yourself there? Are you, I suppose the first question is, are you a mobile gamer?
I used to be a lot more. I used to buy so many games on my phone, particularly when I lived in Italy, because I didn't have a games console and I only had a rubbish laptop. So I just had an iPad and an iPhone, and I was like, I would always play games on my phone. So at that point, I used to play so many mobile games, and I probably played one of the Football Managers way back then that was on mobile, and it wasn't particularly great. I think it's come a long way, and I have played some other management games on mobile. I think there's a Boxing Club Manager one which I played, and there's a couple other football ones like Football Chairman and that. I think Football Manager is way ahead of those. I haven't tried out any of the what's the other one? The one with Jose Mourinho.
Total Football Manager, Total Soccer Manager, or something like that.
That tells you everything, doesn't it?
I had Soccer Manager, which I used to play a lot when there was football. Obviously, Football Manager was like $7.99 or $8.99 at that time, and it's like, well, Soccer Manager's there, sort of thing. So yeah, I've had that before, but it's not. This is definitely levels above that, and that's probably the next best thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably unsurprising anyone listening going, "Oh, I bet Tony plays loads of mobile games." No. Not at all. Like, it's and the weird thing is, okay, it's because for me, okay, like, because I used to be self-employed as a comedian, my phone was constantly just with emails and text messages to chase gigs and invoicing and stuff. So I never used it as a games device because I was always associated it with work, and therefore I never got into the habit of playing games on my mobile because, well, I was working on it, so I wouldn't be like sort of playing this thing and then like an email would come in and I'd just get distracted. So the laptop was for games and the mobile was just for calls and emails. So I've had to have a bit of a sort of time over the past couple of weeks with this game getting used to the idea of playing mobile games again, because I think the last time I played a handheld game would probably have, I mean, maybe I'm being slightly over dramatic at this point, would maybe have gone back to like the Game Boy or something, because I didn't even play games on an iPad. Again, that for me, that wasn't gaming. Like, so I've had to really change my perspective on it and try gaming in a completely new way, which there'll be people screaming at this going, come on, Tony, it's not 1998. Like, you can do this now. And I know I can, but for me, that was the first major hurdle I had to get over.
That's a difficult one.
Do you know what's interesting? So I just remembered I did play the one that they released on the PlayStation Vita. It was called Football Manager Classic. So at the time it was a step up from the mobile version. But now I look at the mobile version now, that looks very reminiscent of what Football Manager Classic was in 2014. Yeah. And I got annoyed at that game because I played a season as Portsmouth. And I played 37 games 45 games, and my season ended. And some other teams played 48 games, 47 games, and I missed out on promotion because of it. And I was like, wait, why are we all playing different numbers of games? This doesn't make any sense. So the game bugged out, and I wrote on the Sports Interactive forums and got myself banned because I was angry at it when I was much younger, because we've all been down that route. Actually, I think I had like a 1 week ban. It's okay, but it's a rite of passage for all true Football Manager aficionados. I think half the staff have been banned on there at one point as well. So yeah, I did play that. So that was like another little mobile version of Football Manager I tried. It's It's interesting because the limitations of it are obviously restricted by the device, but you do look at some of the other games and they are able to produce some quite good-looking games. I think the other games, the highlights and stuff aren't in real time. I think they're like pre-rendered cutscenes or whatever.
Yeah.
So that does make a difference. I don't think you get 3D match engines in real time. Actually, FIFA does have, but FIFA's obviously a very different game. So I find that kind of interesting. Because we know, for example, that the mobile version is not going onto the Unity engine this year, as well, based on what they said last year. Maybe it's changed in the last year, but we know that Unity is going to be at least another year before the mobile is on it. It should be good for mobile because might allow mobile to catch up with the other platforms. But I thought if this is how it's going to be stuck for another year, it might actually feel a little bit dated by the time they update it.
Okay, so that's potentially my first point to look at then, Aaron. I'm gonna try and split it into like little sections as to things that I noticed when I was loading it up. So looking a bit dated, I think is a fair comment. Look at the UI. Aaron, in terms of its usability and its functionality, what was your opinions on it? I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to feedback with what I thought, again, as someone who's quite new to this sort of scene. But in terms of its functionality and its usability as a mobile game on its own, where do you think it sits?
You know what? Again, I was gonna say it's fairly easy, but for me, because again, I've literally like downloaded it every single year they've released it. But coming to think of it, when I have played other games, it's the similar thing when new people are watching us play Football Manager on the PC. Is that it can be daunting, even for me. When you like, maybe you felt this the same way when you open up the game and it's like, oh wow, like you start looking for things and trying to find things, and like it can be daunting. So it's in that regard, it's still the same. It's like you have to click on a few buttons to get to certain places and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not free flowing. I think that's probably one of the, not to put anyone off it, but that's probably one of the things. It's not a free flowing game. I mean, you can it got to a point where I was just pressing the top right where the continue is. So I was just pressing that and just smashing through the days. But other than that, if you're trying to play the game, like you're proper invested and you want to do the trading and stuff, it can be pretty heavy.
Well, right. So that kind of is where my head went first of all, right?
Yeah.
Because what it made me do, is it made me feel like I was playing Football Manager for the first time, and I've not played because I've played every version of FM, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it doesn't matter what version they throw at me, I sort of know where everything is, right? Because I've got 30 years worth of experience. We know that there are now people coming to this game with zero experience and are going, right, what on earth is this? Where is stuff? And we've said on podcasts before that there is a lot of clicks to get to some things that we just do with muscle memory because we know where they are.
Yeah.
I looked on the mobile game, and for 3 months in game, I didn't really know how to access my squad screen. And I'm still not 100% sure I know, but I think I just about found out. And I know that there's hints and tips within it, but for a mobile game, it's just got to be click, 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 surely.
It's really interesting because how many comments did we get saying the new UI for the game looks like a mobile game? They clearly haven't looked at Football Manager, the mobile game, because the Football Manager, the mobile game, looks like Football Manager looked like 20 years ago. Back in 2006, 2005. Like it looks like it very much is similar to those first iterations of Football Manager in terms of what you can do in the game, in terms of how it lays out, in terms of what you have to click to get where. Obviously, you're not clicking; you're using your fingers, and sometimes that's a little bit.
That's a problem as well because you've got that the recognition, and there's bits because you're playing it on landscape mode. Yeah.
Yes.
Like if you've got a case on and you're trying to click in the bottom corner to do tactics, we'll get to that in a second. But the recognition sometimes is a bit. That might just be my screen, to be honest. Sorry, I cut you off there. Jump back in.
No, you're fine. I think you're right. I think, I certainly thought, if I pressed the button, did it go through? Maybe this is a good time to ask, what I'm on a iPhone 11 or 12, so it's like a few years behind
like
now.
10X, like a Max, 10 Max. So again,
You're on an
few years,
iPhone,
a few years old.
Okay. because I did wonder whether we were all on iPhones, because I did find it a little bit unresponsive. at
Just
times,
laughing
like,
at
you know,
Aaron, just with a reflection for us.
He's gets a reflection of us.
Like FM Inception back there.
So when you were like in the match screen, if you wanted to swipe to the stats and the other things, it just took a second or two too long for me.
Yes.
And I didn't know if that was because I was running an older iPhone, so I wondered if you guys were on newer
I
ones,
get
if
that
it was
as well.
better.
And something you do get that thing where it's like, did I do it? So you kind of like, and then you do it again quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I found trying to press in the bottom corners to try and make tactical changes, just it wasn't recognising for me. And again, I don't know whether it's because of the lip of the case that I've got, or whether it's my stupid fingers that just aren't quite working, or my 44-year-old eyes that can't quite see the corner. But I found that a little bit, not off-putting, but I found it a little bit frustrating.
I'm going to let you in on a secret, Tony. It was recognising it. And let me see if I can... So basically, when you click in the bottom right corner, it doesn't take you to the tactics screen like it does on PC. It waits until the next pause in the game, and then it takes you to the tactics screen. So it wasn't not recognising your finger at all. It was waiting until the next pause in the play, and then it was going to go to the tactics screen or the substitution screen.
Okay.
If you did it during a highlight... I noticed this earlier today. I was thinking the same. I was like, why is it not doing anything?
That makes sense, actually, but there was still some... Because there was moments when it greyed out, and I was like, oh, right, something's happened. But there was still a lot... There was still a few times when I was pressing it, and it hadn't greyed out, like... so I obviously hadn't clicked enough on it. But that makes a lot of sense.
That's it, yeah. So, like, in terms of a Football Manager game, though, so considering all of that, that's just the usability of it. But in terms of a football manager game, it's still it's a good Football Manager game for a mobile. Obviously, it's just, again, like when it comes to layout, I don't know how you would even suggest to make it easier than it is. So that's probably really the difficulty Football Manager got. Essentially, it's a PC game, which they're putting on the mobile, it's not going to be like, you know, Subway Surf, where it's just like you're literally just moving fingers and it's just very quick and easy and go. You quite literally have to press continue, wait for it to process as well, like a PC game, and then things like putting plays on the transfer list. And so when you start a new save on a computer, you're all motivated and you're putting this person on a loan, you're on a loan, offering out. It feels still pretty free flowing on the PC, but on the mobile, it's like you put two people on the loan list and like, I can't be bothered to do the rest, and you continue and go forward.
Right. That's a good point as well, okay? Now, you all know my hatred of starting new saves, okay? So, let's consider I'm trying to learn mobile gaming whilst hating the fact that I'm doing a first season, okay? So there's a lot of, like, things that I've got to overcome here. And usually what we'll say to anyone who starts a brand new save on Football Manager, start with a team you know, so therefore you understand how it plays and you understand the tactics and the players. So naturally, I started as Shimizu S-Pulse in the J2 Japanese League, because why wouldn't I?
I selected Roma, the team that I'm on Football Manager, and I just tried to basically copy and paste the tactical.
My thinking with the J League and J2 though was that what I didn't want to do was get really immersed in the game, because I sort of had in my head the idea that what I was going to do was just click way through. Now, kind of the stage I'm at with FM right now, I suppose, we're with FM24. Like, I'm a continue manager. I don't, like, all my training's already done. I don't really need to see the screens. I know what's going on. We'll just get to the games and we'll talk and we'll play that. That's kind of the experience I wanted with FM Mobile, because that's, rightly or wrongly, how I presumed a mobile player would play. Like, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong with that. Aaron's saying about having kids and like you just sort of like have a bit of time on your own, and then I didn't think I'd get too immersed. Like, I mean, did you go down the immersion route, or were you sort of like one step back as well?
I went straight in. I've been doing a challenge. I went in with the challenge mode. So after the show, we talked about the other week of the challenges. Yeah, so I went on to the relegation challenge, which is your team's at the bottom of the table. And I chose Portsmouth, and I thought I'll choose a team which they shouldn't really be in the relegation zone. It shouldn't be too difficult to get them out of, just to, like, it'll give me a good feel of the game without me having too much stress and getting sacked and all sorts. So I've just been running that challenge, and like I did find myself sort of smashing through the buttons quite a bit. I found myself getting asked about loans for the youth team way too much, like in the middle of March, and I'm like, can I get a member of staff to sort this for me, please? Like, can someone else just take charge of sending out these youth players on loan? So there were like strange things like that, because that would just interrupt my flow all the time.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And then I was like, but there were interesting other things. Like other than that, I was like, oh, I could just get through this. And like, it didn't matter if I looked away for a minute, or like while I was watching the telly. So I was sort of watching the telly, or most of the time while I was playing. It was kind of a nice way to do it. So I wasn't sat dedicated playing Football Manager on the mobile at any point. It was this is something I'm doing while I'm also watching the telly, or while I'm, I've got the cooking on the go, or whatever I'm doing. So yeah, it wasn't exactly immersed.
And I'm presuming, Aaron, that you were pretty much the same, because I'm guessing you're not a man who's just literally focused on your phone, just that you've got other things going on, you've got the kids to look after, so like...
Yeah. To be fair, when I opened it, I don't know why that's happening, but so when Sai came up with that idea, the kids are actually out, so I did like just sit down and I had music on, so I was just, but I was on the PC with something, and then I was just like sort of playing it. So I did have a bit of time, and that's when so then we get into it. The match engine, I was pretty surprised by it. The 2D, I was kind of surprised by it. It was smooth, not jittery. And it felt like what I would so previously, going back to the old Football Managers on mobile, the match engine was nothing like the PC one. Like, your left back will be standing there, and it's like you don't see your tactics play out. It's just kick and run sort of thing. That's what it used to look like, and it felt like they already had their result or whatever. This time, it's like straight away you see your inverted wing back move inside in the highlight and that sort of thing. So I was pretty surprised by that. Funny you said something about the loans as well, because the moment you said that, so mobile players, the feedback they're giving back to SI, they must not find that as an issue, because that has been a thing since long time ago. I remember like being Arsenal and kept getting offers for a reserve player called Lupoli, and it was just like, it kept just bugging me. It just kept coming in my inbox. Like, all these teams wanted him on loan. I was like, but he's not even he's in the reserves, he's a youth team. And I just felt that for a manager game on the mobile, like, that shouldn't be sort of a thing that you see. But it seems like people don't really have an issue with that play Football Manager mobile. But people do play it, because I'm a person that does tactics, and it's come up quite a few, and I now know there's other creators that say that they got a Football Manager tactic, but also the mobile one alongside it as well, because people have been asking for it. So there are clearly a lot of players playing this game.
I mean, a couple of things I noticed that tie in with that as well, and this is partly because I was trying to distance myself from it. So I found I was accepting transfer bids, not really thinking about it, just because that's kind of what I do, like, in terms of if I'm just trying to get through a season. Like, we used to do like monthly Discord challenges back in the day, and if I wasn't invested in the save, I'd just accept small transfers of players who I sort of presumed I wasn't really going to be using. But then I'm also not looking to recruit to replace them, because I'm like, look, I'm not committed to this save. It's 1 season, 2 seasons max sort of thing. I suppose almost like a beta save, really, in a sense. I guess is sort of a way I'd maybe describe it. So not trying to get too involved. You mentioned there the match engine. I was pleasantly surprised with the match engine. Really pleasantly surprised, because I saw the UI on the home screen, and I was like, that looks a bit clunky and a bit dated. When the match engine kicked off, and I was like, well, that's smooth. That's really smooth. That's really nice. And it reminded me just how much I love 2D again. So that got me right back. There was a little hint of nostalgia in there, which I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And I genuinely found myself like watching the replays going, oh, good goal. Like, you know.
If they could have that more. If your matches are more often, then that would be like if the main focus of the game was the actual 2D engine sort of thing, I think that would be
that's the thing. I think
trying to be an actual manager.
Yeah, I think they need to celebrate that bit.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, ironically, as Sai says, hey, you know what? If FM25 is apparently a mobile game, according to everyone, make it look like what this FM Mobile 25 game apparently looks like, because that would look really nice and clean on a mobile.
Yeah.
Then put that 2D match engine on it. And I also really liked Si, the tactics work quite well. Again, I mean, this is so many years worth of Football Manager knowledge, but I didn't feel like I was coming into it needing to learn. Like, it was fairly self-explanatory, more so than the PC version. And I did notice things changing when I was tweaking it. So really responsive as well.
It does give you a little bit of extra information, if I remember correct. And then, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Are there extra roles in this version?
Like, there's lesser roles.
I'm sure I saw a role or a position that's not in
You
the
might,
PC
you
one.
might have seen a role that's not in. Yeah, you might have seen one. Yeah, I know there's a
I
few
think it
roles
might
that
have
are
been out
not
on
in
the
it.
wide midfield or something. There is one or two roles which just don't exist in the PC version. But also you can position your players like it's a grid, right? Almost like a grid. So you can position your players where you like. So unlike the PC version, if you want, you can stick like players in the middle or slightly to the right. Whereas on PC, sometimes it will shunt them over if you put a second player next to them and stuff. Whereas on this, it was like, no, you can do that. So I found it kind of interesting where you could sort of set the roles and things. It was a little bit. My only problem with it all was it was a little bit fiddly. Like it was just one or two presses or clicks or whatever too many for it to do what I wanted it to do, or drags or whatever. And that just meant once I'd set my tactic, I was like, I'm not going to touch it. I'm like. Either it works or it doesn't work. We're just going into the matches, and I'll make the substitutions during the match, and I'm not going to touch the tactic because I don't want to have to fiddle like moving bits around and stuff again. But it's pretty close to the PC version in terms of what you can do with the tactic, and you can see it responding on the pitch in the way that you would expect it to respond.
Yeah, Aaron, what about yourself? What have you noticed from that? Because I've like looking at the tactic and the way that it sets out, it felt very CM 98, 99 for me.
I was just going to say...
Like, there's arrows that go places.
Yeah,
I was like, yes!
So there are a couple things in Football Manager Mobile. I'm like basically questioning, why is this just not in the normal game?
Yeah.
Like, so the arrows on positioning, right? So if you use a winger, it's just going to have a straight arrow. If you use it inside forward, it's then going to bend, and it's got like little more arrows telling you that he's making that run inside, and it's just like, that just already gives you... So people always ask what's the difference between inverted winger and an inside forward. Like Football Manager quite literally got the tools to tell you, but I just giving you arrows. But for some reason, there's just no arrows on the game. We don't have to move the arrows or edit the arrows. Just show us where the roles go in, what the players expected to do, and that allows us to see sort of the movement, give us a good idea of the movement. So there was that in Football Manager Mobile. I was thinking, why is that not in the game? There's also, so when you're 1-0 down, in Football Manager desktop, your goalkeeper could just go forward, or whatever the goalkeeper just goes forward, tries, scores, whatever. But in mobile, it asks you if you want the goalkeeper to go forward or not. And again, it's one of those things that I don't understand why in Football Manager, when the highlights happening, or you got the corner, you got the attacking free kick, you just get the message, your goalkeeper's asking if he should go up or not. And you just got the simple thing, yes or no.
Like, I think there's been a bit of confusion, hasn't there, on 24 with when does the goalkeeper go to join the attack for corners? And I think what we seem to work out is that you have to be on very attacking, and the goalkeeper's got to have a little bit of eccentricity possibly, and then he goes himself. But you're right, I saw that first little instruction of, do you want the goalkeeper to go up for the corner? And I was like, again, this would be great in the full version, just having that option there and then to click it as the sort of... Because essentially what it was like your assistant manager was actually doing something at that point. Like, saying, hey, should we do this? Like, yeah, all right, cool, let's do it. Another thing I quite liked as well in the tactics, and it goes back to the arrows a little bit, and it's something that's been discussed from many, many versions, is the tactical playing style. So the way that it's laid out in the desktop version is it's just a line of direct counterattack, fluid counterattack, possession, control, positive balance. Like, it's just words. It don't make no sense if you're coming in brand new. But on the mobile version, green arrows, red arrows, like higher, lower, so it shows you a sliding scale of how much risk and reward you're going to have with a tactic. Because again, if you're on a phone, you haven't got 40 minutes to sit and work this out. it's just going, right, you want to be attacking? Cool, go towards the greens. You want to be a bit more defensive? Get yourself down the red. You don't have fuss? Just leave it where it is.
It's interesting because actually I had a quick look after I thought about what the role was. I couldn't find what the role was. There might not be a different role, but I think I remember what the difference was. So there's no all-out attack. It's called overload, which like implies something slightly different. And it's interesting that they used a different terminology. But I thought that was like kind of interesting that they call it overload, like the idea that you're just pushing the players forward. But it could mean overload at other areas of the pitch. I don't know quite. I didn't test it enough to see if that's how it worked. There are some small tweaks like that. I saw also, so players, you could like when you click on a player, you can say, do you want them to zonal mark?
I was just about to say that. Literally just about to say that.
I was like, wait,
rather than type
I've
marking,
been
I'm like, I
thinking
don't understand
about this
that.
for years on the PC, right? You can select. I think you can select it on set pieces, but you can't select it on anything else on the PC unless you do it in the player or like you can assign players to players. But you have to do it like almost every game, or you have to assign them to a position, and if a different tactic shows up, it messes it up and drags your players out of positions. Whereas on this, it's like, do you want this player to be player marking, or do you want him to be zonal marking? It's like, what? I mean, this is a fundamental football basic, right? Like that should be a choice in the main game, and here it is. It's in the mobile game, and there were just like some little things like that, and I'm thinking, wait, these are options I don't normally get. You went back to the assistant manager, and I know it's sort of, they give suggestions in the main game, but much like your goalkeeper going up, I had a red card for the opposition, and he came up and he said, "Hey, they've got a red card. We should go more. Make the team more attacking. Do you want to do it? Yes." But it stops the game.
I was going to say that's the difference. Yeah, it stops. The game pauses for a minute and lets you actually digest and let you think about a decision. Yeah. There's a couple of things like that in the game where you think, why is that just not in Football Manager? That would actually help those people as well that are new to the game.
I did find as well that it wasn't as easy as I was expecting it to be. Like, do you know what I mean? And again, maybe that's a slightly arrogant perspective because, again, of how much Football Manager we've played in our life. I was expecting to come in and go, all right, it's a mobile game. This is going to be fairly easy, I'd imagine. The idea it's 30 seasons, you're going to blast through this. Not too difficult. I should be up there or thereabouts with relative ease. I know what I'm doing. And yeah, I won a few games. Yeah, I lost a couple of games. Yes, I managed to claw my way back and win some matches where I really had to think about what I was doing. But it certainly wasn't plain sailing. And I don't know whether that's because I thought, I'm going to treat it as a brand new game, and therefore, right, I don't know this team, so this is the tactic I'm going to use, and we're going to work around it. And I'm not looking for, the quote-unquote OP tactics, and I'm not looking for players that everyone would sign. So, but I still think that I was maybe expecting it being a touch easier than it maybe was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm the same. I went into it thinking, I'm RDF Tactics now. I'm just going to...
Do you not know who I am?
Literally. It was like the first game gave me a shock. I'm like, mate, I haven't even had a shot in the first 40 minutes. In the AM, they've had like 9. So I'm just like, huh? Sort of thing, yeah. And because I lost the game, but you don't get battered. So it's like some sort of encouragement. I'm like, I'm going to play another game. Next game, lost again 1-0 against a good team. And like, all right, it's against a good team. Then I beat a good team, and it's just like, okay. But yeah, you start working out things and how the game actually behaves. Because the matches feel like shorter, right? Because obviously the matches on the desktop are longer. So I feel like once I go down, I feel like I'm just in deep trouble. Like there's just so little time for me to actually turn this around.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, the reaction time, because the games are, as you say, you're not looking for it with a 20-minute match. If it's on mobile, it's 5 minutes max, really, because the idea is to blast through it. So you're right, you go goal down, and all of a sudden you're 35 minutes in the game, and you're like, oh, there's not as much time as I thought there was. That's going to be over pretty quick.
Literally, so that, it's that as well, yeah. There's no halftime team talk as well, so on the desktop you're thinking, you go 1-0 down, you're like, I could turn this around with the team talk and whatnot. It's like, obviously, in the mobile, I was just like, oh, this is squeaky.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, so I'd have like half time, and I'd have like some players are pretty happy, and then one player's like a bit sort of disenchanted, sigh, and I can't press any buttons. So then I just click continue, and then that player is he's now fed up, and I'm like, what's not my fault?
Yeah, you can't. There's less options to influence it, I think, and also because you also have to wait for the break in the game. You're limited in what you can do. You can make those couple of subs, but it's like, yeah, you're sort of stuck. You can't just like shout at them. Shouts are going away in the main game as well. I found it interesting when you were mentioning you went in thinking it was easier. And one of the comments I've had a lot recently. So I've been playing the console version. I played last week. I streamed it for a whole week, the console version, and I had so many comments saying, "Oh, it's easier. It's easier. It's easier." And I said, "Why? Why do you think it's easier?" "Oh, it's on console." I mean, okay, but why do you actually think it's easy? Like, the match engine's the same. The player database is the same. The tactics are the same. Like, the transfer system is almost the same. Like, the difference is, like, not a difficulty thing. Like, the only thing that you might argue that makes it easier is the fact that there's no registration rules. And that's you don't have to worry about registration rules. Well, like, beyond that, it's all a near identical game. You know, okay, you don't have to deal with the training, but you don't have to deal with the training on the PC anyway. And actually, you've got a harder thing on the console. You've also got to manage club principles, which we can save for another show. But I just found it interesting that you said you went into this thinking it was easier, and that's a lot of feedback I've been getting about the console version. I've been saying it's the same game. Like, I think it's just your perception that it's easier because it's on console. Yeah. Like, there's no, and this is what people think, oh, it's on mobile, it's going to be easy. I do agree you can fly through it. Like, I probably got through about 10 matches in about 10, 15 minutes, and you can certainly probably do a season in a couple of hours, sat in front of the television, which is kind of nice. You know, I don't think there's enough depth necessarily that you'd want it to take longer than that. But yeah, the speed with which you can just get through that game is like, it's kind of refreshing. You know, you can be like, can I win the Premier League with Arsenal? Let's find out. A couple hours, you're done. You don't have to invest 3 days of your life and your sleep into it.
As I say, I think it was quite an arrogant stance of me coming in thinking that, okay, it's a mobile game, therefore surely it's not going to be that hard, because, well, why would it be? Like, surely you would want mobile games to be fairly simple given the limitations of a mobile. But again, maybe this is my arrogance without playing in that genre, that I wouldn't know how easy or difficult are mobile games. I genuinely don't know, Aaron.
Well, I think they're three different games. I think the PC, the console, and the mobile. And I think the mobile is very different to the... Well, I haven't played the console, but it's the fact that it's very mobile-y, it's very gamey, mobile-y gamey. So you can't start with the highest qualifications. You have to unlock that. So already you're sort of like, you're tied to just a normal or default manager thing, whereas I can quite literally open up Football Manager and be Pep Guardiola from day one. Like, literally, do you know what I mean? And then that can make your game a little easier. And I'm guessing you will notice these things. That's why it's an unlockable thing. So that's one thing that makes it feel sort of gamey, and you could say that's actually more difficult, and it's trying to be a little bit more difficult at the beginning to get you to play it, to get you to unlock these other things, which then makes the game a little bit more level playing field with you and the AI. And there's also, what was the other thing as well? Yeah, you may have to come back to me.
Right.
It was in my head, but you may have to come back.
Have a think about that then, because I quite like that. Could you imagine, Si, if they put that into the main PC game, right? The idea of unlockables, that you do start with this zero badges, zero experience approach. I mean, it would potentially change a lot of people who go, FM's far too easy. Well, as Aaron says, if you are all qualifications up to the hills and you're starting, in the 6th tier of English football, well, of course it's going to be easy, because theoretically your tactics are going to work better, the players are going to listen to you, all those little tiny details that work under the hood. Would the game be a bit more tricky if you do have none of those badges? I mean, that's how I play. Maybe that's my excuse as to why it doesn't work for me.
So you think it should force you into the level that you're playing at?
Yeah, a little bit. Or like, even... Here's where I'm really showing my age. Do you remember when Gran Turismo made you take a driving test before you can even play the game? Like, I'm not going that far down the line, but there should be, and I do like the idea of, you don't get everything at once. That's one thing I did like about the mobile. Aaron's right. There's a lot of unlockables in there that are there for when you play the game, you get a little bit more. And some of them are incredibly gamified, and like they are there for being a little bit unrealistic, which again we'll get into in a second, the idea of realism. Some of those little things though, they do keep you going back to it and going, maybe if I do just unlock this thing, then that might give me a little bit more longevity out of the game.
Maybe they should have you as like a different staff role, and you like at first maybe you're a scout and you just do the scouting part. Then you're just a coach and you just do the coaching part. And then you get given the transfers. You're a director of football for like a little tutorial for each, where you're cosplaying as like one of the assistant staff roles. Let's say, then you're assistant manager, so you get asked to do the tactics in the team talks, but you're not doing the other bits. And then it goes, right, finally you're qualified to be the manager. You've done your physio test.
Could they put that as part of, could they put that as part of challenges? I know they've got challenges in the mobile, but could that have been? And right, okay, let's go with it now, right? Let's go with it now. Let's talk about realism and unrealistic parts of the game, right? FM Mobile, yes, is slightly more unrealistic than FM. Okay, fine, because of the fact that it allows you to do things like challenges. It allows us a few unlockables, which are ridiculous, quite frankly. But it's a mobile game; you're allowed to do that. Yeah,
there's that, and I didn't really scan around, but I think there was a bit of the transfers. Was a bit. I remember playing Milan, and I was thinking that signing, huh? Sort of thing. So there can be a bit of that as well. And squad rotation, they will just drop their best player against you.
Yeah. I was thinking more about like the fact that some of the comments that I saw in Discord were things like, the game's not realistic.
Oh yeah.
But we should have more things that are unrealistic, like, and it should be a different universe. And I'm like, well, hang on, it's either not realistic or you want to build your own stadium. Which one is it? Like, you can't be both. Like, you either need it to be realistic or allow it to be like Ultimate Soccer Manager, where it is completely different. But then that's really a different game entirely, Si, isn't it?
You could go both ways. You could go. I mean, you're right with maybe it goes into the challenge mode. Like obviously on mobile and on console they can't introduce the custom databases, but I mean we've seen like the Mad Scientist databases where he goes back into the past. You've had him on the show to talk about them, of course. And there are other wilder databases out there. Literally, there's a Game of Thrones database out there where every footballer is a character from Game of Thrones and every team is a town from Game of Thrones. And it's like there are injury databases where your players can catch the bubonic plague, 17th century ailments. Like there are fun and fantastical things out there that you can do to your game on the PC that you can't really do on the mobile. And it would be kind of fun to have that stuff in a challenge mode. But I think you have to keep the base game as the realistic version. I don't think, and I guess if you're asking me if you should be allowed to do things like build your own stadium and name it after yourself or whatever, I mean, if it's there as like the unlockable, like a cheat. Do you remember what like old GTA games or even like FIFA used to have big head mode or whatever it was, right? It was an unlockable, and you could have your players turn up with massive heads, and it was kind of fun. But I don't think as long as it's an unlockable, it doesn't just happen in your game.
I think there's an unlockable that's just happened in my brain right now, Si, and I think this could be the thing that maybe swings me round, right? Okay. Think about editable databases. You've mentioned the Mad Scientist there, okay?
Yeah.
I love the Mad Scientist to bits. I think the work he does is incredible, yeah? Personally, I can't get into it as a save on the PC because of, like, I play it as like a sort of two season. Can you see where I'm going with this, Aaron?
I know where you're going
you give me 2 seasons of that on the PC and I'm sort of like, okay, cool, I've had me fun now and I'm done. Let me play that on my mobile. Let me have the 93, 94 database on my mobile. Let me have an 01, 02 database on my mobile. And you know what? Now I'm playing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That makes
it's interesting. Because there is another game. I'm trying to think what it was now. There was another game. It was a mobile game. I don't think it was it might have been a wrestling manager, it might have been a football manager, or it was a something manager, some sport or sports entertainment or whatever they call it nowadays. But you could essentially the base game has like all made up players, but you could go on the website, get a certain file, put it on your phone, and it would change the database to the players that are the realistic ones. I don't remember what it is now. I'm trying to think what it is, and I played it. It wasn't particularly a great game, if I remember correct. But I thought that feature of it was like really good. It was like, oh, Football Manager could just do like custom databases on mobile. Maybe, I mean, on console it's harder because you can't put a file on a console. But on mobile, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
It should be fairly fair. Well, for a man who doesn't know anything about this, Aaron, I'm going to say this should be fairly straightforward, right?
I know. I have no idea. But talk about ideas. We did have a tweet from Triple M on tweet, obviously replying to your tweet that you put out. And he was talking about the main appeal of FM for him as a PC player is the detail and the depth the game goes into. So for him to be able to play the mobile version, that would need to be replicated, or there'd have to be a fun online 1v1 mode. And again, that sounds pretty interesting. I remember for a moment I was addicted to 8-Pool. I don't know if anyone's played 8-Pool, but you're literally just playing random. There's like, they're part of the mini Java group, so you can. Is that one of those things that you play like random people just across the? Now, I don't see that's another thing that could possibly be a part of the game as well. An online 1v1 mode, and he's also put an ultimate team of some sorts without the pay to win. But I'm just not the biggest fan of ultimate team anything.
But that, you know what? I like that. Triple M, by the way, we had an episode with Triple M on Patreon. Definitely worth going and checking out. South African esports broadcaster, fairly new to FM as well, actually. So it was really interesting to listen to his views coming in as a brand new player. As we said at the start of the show, for me coming in as a mobile guy, going, this looks different to what I expected. So it's really great to listen to his views on that. 1v1 versus mode on mobile. That's ticking a few boxes for me as well, actually. I like the sound of that. That's pretty interesting.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if it's possible, but there's like cool things where you can, I don't know, export your team or take your team from your computer thing to play these 1v1s on the mobile, whatever it is. That could be sort of like an ultimate team sort of thing, but yeah. That could be.
It would be good. You just put in a multiplayer mode, quick matchmaking 1v1 on the phone. So many games on the phone are based around this kind of activity anyway.
Yeah, just have like seasons and leader groups and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, because it's all about just speed, isn't it? So, like international tournaments would be great on the mobile. Like if you've got like a Euros pack or something, you could just log in and all of a sudden you were playing the Euros. And you're out after 3 games, and you've got to reload and go again. That would be
those things and with that you're without all those transfer offers coming in that you have to respond to and all that sort of thing. It's just like literally you just playing the game, managing on the game.
I've got an idea. I think I hate it before I even suggest it, but I'm going to suggest it. So you play. You start off with Boston United or whoever, right? Like like a non-league level team. It's not actually Boston United, but like basically that level of quality of players. And you go into the online, and it's like matchmaking. So you'll face someone about the same level. And if you win the game, you get to choose one of their players, and that player is they don't lose the player, but so there's not like a risk. But that player is put into your team, and like you build your way up the ladder, and eventually you're like, wait, this guy's got Lionel Messi or whatever. Although I don't know how anyone would, if everyone started at the same level, I don't know how you would get eventually the better players. Maybe there'd have to be a way of like every now and again you get offered a good player or something, or you could trade in a couple of players and buy someone new. Maybe there's a little transfer market.
You could do it with, if you had fake players in there, and you could do it for drafting for new gens, and you're essentially playing like a live network game, and anybody could join in on it. But it's sort of like a bit of fantasy football. It's a little bit ultimate team.
It's not Football Manager,
it's not. But it's not Football Manager. But it's in that mobile space that, you know what? It's not a bad idea. It's got legs.
I think I want it, but without, because I'm sure other games already do this. And I think, in fact, I'm 99% sure they do. But I want it with the Football Manager match engine, with the Football Manager tactics, and I want it without the predatory microtransactions. That's what I'd like. I don't want to be like, oh, you can just get all these players right now if you buy a pack for $2.99.
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you. I just like I want to earn it. I want to build my way up the ladder and eventually get these teams.
Massive props I will give for anyone who says, all right, the game is stripped down and lacks detail. I'm going to say the amount of nations you can pick from at the start of the game and the amount of detail that is in those squads give your head a wobble, right? Okay, it is not a stripped down game. It is stripped down in the sense of there isn't as many things to click and maybe not as many stats. I haven't looked. There might well be all those stats in there. But the teams and the data that is in there and the database that is playable from day one, that ain't stripped down at all.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's another thing and that's increasing year by year as well, the amount of playable leagues on the game. That's one thing I've noticed, playing from those PSP days and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I just think back, like going to Champman 93, 94, when all you could play was the English leagues, not even the Scottish leagues. You had to buy another game to play Italy. Like, I loaded up J2 and J3 was on my mobile. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? And it's not one player and then the rest are grayed out players. It's enough information for a mobile game. You don't need 4 squads worth of 42 players. Nah, not for me. But yeah, I just wanted to give some credit at that point to people who say that it's stripped down. Munu Streams gave us a tweet that says she tried it and hated it. She says that if you're new to FM, it's probably all right. But as someone who's played on PC for years, she said it was a dreadful experience, doesn't play well, and it misses a lot of those key elements that she loves on the PC version. So I think, again, it's a comment that came back a lot, was that people who'd played the PC version didn't get on board with the mobile version. But is it just a thing of you're used to one and not the other? Like,
yeah, definitely. Like, I will tell you, when I've been in that situation, so like I was when I lived in Italy, and like I spent a little bit of time in New York as well, and I was like, I don't have a laptop that runs FM, or I don't have FM for whatever reason. I played the phone version on one time, and I played the PlayStation Vita one, which is like very much like the mobile one now, the other time, and I was like, this will like scratch my itch just about enough to like get me through. but that almost is like, I'm treating it like an addiction of sorts, isn't it? It's like I've got to get my Football Manager. Like, the new football's happening all around me. I'm like, I just want to go play some Football Manager, but I can't do it on my PC. Let's do it on my phone. And I think that's like maybe a nice way to do it. Like, I mean, I tell you from when, obviously I'm married now, but I have been in the past dating, and when you're dating and you spend a lot of time around a partner's house or whatever, and you've got a lot of downtime when you're at their house sometimes, they're cooking or they're getting ready or they're, whatever they're doing. But you're just hanging out at their house and you're like, I'm just going to play on my phone for a bit. Ideal, right? You just, get your phone out. I don't know if that's changing, because obviously people have things like Nintendo Switches now, or they might have a Steam Deck. Steam Deck. Steam Deck, and you basically play the full version of Football Manager on your Steam Deck. But then again, like, I don't know, if I went like around a girlfriend's house, I'm not going to whip out a full Steam Deck, am I? I'm just going to play on my phone.
Oh, boy, you don't know me, boy.
I don't want to get dumped on the first date.
Aaron's got a gaming rig with him. Just trying to plug the PC in.
Yeah, I met my missus, and obviously the first day I met their parents, I was at the house, and the laptop, she had her laptop, and I was like, download Steam, download Football Manager. It was great those days, because obviously they didn't know what it was, so it was just like, he's just doing something on the laptop.
It looked like you're doing spreadsheets for work. Checking my emails.
He's getting really angry. I don't know why. Some of the other comments that we've had on Twitter, Matt Johnson has said, in the past, for time on holiday, they played it, but never really plays it unless under those circumstances, which I guess kind of makes sense. Like we've mentioned before, if you are traveling or if you are away from your desktop, then yeah, it's a good alternative. He says they're hard to get immersed into a save universe where I blur the lines of reality like I do in the full fat game, which, yeah, again, I can take that as a comment of how much do you get immersed in it. I was very much keeping it at arm's length, so I tried, Si, to not get in there. Someone else there saying it's not deep enough. I'm not sure I really fully agree with that personally. Paul Dixon says play FM Touch on the phone, which is the PC Lite version, and then they've also got the FM mobile version, but they find the 2D screen unplayable, so maybe just lacking that 3D match engine.
I don't know what the Touch one has. So that's because if you're on mobile and you've got Apple Arcade instead of Netflix, or as well as Netflix, you can download the Touch version. Now I don't know how well it fits on a small iPhone screen, but you can also do it on a iPad, or you can do it on. I think the Switch version is the Touch version as well, and I'd be curious how that differs.
I think there is that's a thing as well, isn't it? The different versions from the hosting platform as well. So. Just again for clarity, we are talking about the Netflix version of FM Mobile that we've been using this week.
I'm looking up that myself. No, I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's in the Apple Arcade under FM Touch. So if you search on the App Store, I think you get FM Mobile. Yeah, and it's a slightly different game. I can't remember. I think it's halfway between console and mobile, but I'm not sure. I think it's maybe a little bit closer to console. It's more like what Football Manager Classic used to be in a way. So yeah, I think that one is kind of interesting.
Oh, nice. It's literally got a match engine. Like, oh crap.
Yeah, I think it has the match engine. I think it's basically the console version.
Oh my!
So if you have that on phone, that's another option. And I don't know how much Apple Arcade costs a month.
Oh no, we have next week's episode is this. Look, right, we've lost him. We've lost him already. He's away.
That's a good point, actually. Well, we did have a discussion about doing FM console, and because Tony, I mean, you don't have a console, so it was kind of difficult for us to do. But with the Apple Arcade, we can send you £2 or £3 for a month's Apple Arcade. I think you can get a 3 months free trial.
Yeah, I got a 3 month free trial. Yeah,
I can do that.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so maybe you guys try out the Touch. I try out I've already tried out the console one, so I'll try out Touch as well. And if they're very similar, I'll just say these are essentially the same. And we can look at these other versions of the game, maybe depending on how people respond to this episode. I think it's interesting. I think considering it's free on Netflix, everyone should give it a go. Because if everyone gives it a go and gives feedback on it and gives feedback to Sports Interactive, and then they say, right, this is what we need to improve. It's obviously, I think we could play this game. The reason we don't play this game is because it doesn't do everything we want. It's a little more fiddly. We have the full fat one. But if we can respond to Sports Interactive and say, do this to the mobile game, maybe we do get the game that we'd like.
I think it's also as well that if I'm playing FM, so when I'm streaming, that's me playing FM now. Yeah, and I don't now play FM just for relaxing now. Like, FM is just purely a streaming thing. So maybe there's also part of me that goes, well, if I'm not streaming, then I'm not going to play Football Manager. So therefore I'm definitely not going to play it on my phone. So there's maybe a little bit of that as well. If I've not even bought, I probably need to update my Xbox. Really, that's the thing. I don't even have time to play Madden or UFC or GTA or Red Dead or whatever. All those stuff that I'd love to play, and it's not the same thing that I'm doing 3 or 4 nights a week regardless. So maybe there's also a little bit of FM overkill for me. Johnny Ortiz kind of sit pretty much where I am, and he's worded it harshly, but this is me, really. Can't think of anything worse as a PC player and someone who hates mobile games. I'm just you know what? I feel that. I don't play mobile games. I do play on the PC. I'm not the target market for mobile, but I must admit, I've played it and it's pretty good. It's fine. It's totally fine. I've got nothing to compare it against, so maybe that's slightly cloud my judgment.
When you read about all those tweets, it's that we all have the same thing. Is that we're entering it with our Football Manager brains on, our Football Manager desktop brains on, rather than entering it. It's just a standalone mobile game. Just judge it as a mobile game sort of thing. And if you don't really like this, then maybe you're just not really a mobile game player. That's obviously okay.
I agree, Aaron. I think you go into it with the mindset of it's different. Don't go into the mindset of it. Right, it's like watching BBC and ITV. Watch ITV, just knowing it's different, right? Okay, it's like TV but worse, right? But try that, okay? Dan C has put in Discord. I quite like this one, Si. He says this is the only version he plays because ultimately he hasn't got the time to play the PC version, and he also would need a new laptop to run it. This is part of the FM mobile corner that people were shouting, going, I play this because I haven't got the money to go and buy a new laptop, buy a new PC. Dan also has a young daughter with another baby due on the way, so congratulations, Dan. And I believe at the time of recording, as probably already now with new daughter, or new baby, sorry. So the mobile suits him down to the ground, can play it whenever he wants, play it on his tablet. He knows it's not comparable to the proper version, he calls it, so that's why I've got the quotation fingers as well. But he likes it, and it was free because he's got Netflix. And I know as well from some mobile users, there was a bit of anger about the fact that it went to Netflix rather than just being available on the App Store to buy for £8.
Yeah, so I think, well, there's two sides there. A lot of people have Netflix already. Not everyone does, so I could understand maybe being a little bit annoyed. But for those people, what I would do is I'd probably just go get an Apple Arcade subscription. I don't know how much that costs, and get the actual better version, which is the touch version.
Yeah, I'm now just staying out of the conversation because I'm just sitting here thinking I can't believe that I could have just had FM Touch this whole time.
It does seem weird that there's two versions that are just there, but I think it's because it's Apple and it's Apple exclusive, and the Android, so that obviously they still have to produce something for Android, so they create this Netflix version which they can put on Android. And I wonder if there's like a purposeful reason why there's a difference. I was gonna. So what? It was Dan, right? What Dan has said. I wondered if. I wondered why that wasn't your case, Tony. Like I would have thought, being a parent, you know, you have time, but sometimes it's interrupted, or you know, you need to sort of semi-focus on something else. You can't just be sat away in a room with your headphones on playing Football Manager. Like I would have thought, actually, I can pick up and put this down. Would be kind of nice.
I can see the appeal. But as I say, and as I said at the start of the show, for me, I hate my phone. Like really, like I don't want to be on it and playing games. Like I will scroll on it like everyone does, but I don't really engage too much with what I'm scrolling. But yeah, I don't use it for games. I now use it for like watching YouTube videos, or possibly I'll have a stream on when me and Mrs. J will be sat watching the TV, and I might just have someone in the background, like either of yourselves might be on, so I might just have you sort of on quiet while I'm doing that. But yeah, usually now, because of the fact that if I'm not sat with my headphones on playing Football Manager, I'm trying to have the time I actually buy the time back with Mrs. J now and have that time where we can have a conversation. And plus, if I've got the game on the mobile, I've seen Mrs. J's got Pokemon Go on it. The kids just take it off her and they play Pokemon Go. So I kind of need that phone back a little bit. Aaron's already downloading FM Touch. I'm trying to talk over this.
For audio listeners, we've lost him. We've lost Aaron. He's onto the touch version, and he's now realising.
My first thing already, it's a bit jittery, so it's not as smooth. Like even just the little cutscenes and whatnot. But man, this is proper. This is actually from the jar.
No one's going to see Aaron again now.
I'm wondering if this is now the Patreon bit that goes after the end of the episode. It's Aaron's live reaction to FM Touch.
It could be. I mean, so that's something interesting. Like, by some of those comments, people saying, "Oh, they don't want to play a mobile game," and also what you said, Tony. And thinking about it, this is like the least mobile game that I've probably played. It's very much like a PC game. It's very much not in the start. You know, it's touch control and it's on a mobile. And beyond that, it's like you think you know, Pokemon Go, Clash of Clans, Angry Birds. I'm probably 10 years out of date on what's a mobile game nowadays. But these are all like instant gratification games for a start. They're all like, a lot of them have predatory systems. Not all of them, but you know, a lot of them do. A lot of them have like ranking systems, and you move up, and you get a lot of like very bright colors, flashy, you know, bright cartoony graphics very often, just to get you hooked into the game and to get you keep going. And there's a lot of multiplayer elements in them now. And I'm sort of thinking that, you know, sometimes puzzle games as well. You get a few puzzle games, and I'm thinking like, actually, this doesn't this doesn't really fit that mold at all. This fits very much. This is still a spreadsheet where I move players around and then they go out and kick a ball around for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think had it gone down, I'm going to use the Ultimate Soccer Manager route just as an easy way for me to understand it. Had it
it's genuinely football. No, I'm smiling because so there's something already that I liked already, and it's the fact that you could. So remember we was talking about so many buttons and starting a new save. You can quite literally start date the first match. Or you can go to the first match of the Champions League or the Europa League. You can quite literally just skip all that pre-season stuff and just go straight to the first match. I'm in awe. I can't believe this.
So yeah, so like I forget where I was going with that
sorry.
one for a second. No, don't apologize. I love how you're fully invested in this now.
3D manager and everything is there. Like it's the same thing.
He's costing us a future episode. This was going to be 3 episodes time.
The intro's even
It
better.
might have to be the.
the intro's
say
better
that.
than the PC. Like when it's introducing you to the club and stuff. It looks better.
I
than
think
the
that's
PC.
the console one. I'm pretty sure that's the console one. Yeah, it's really good. It's clean. I think it's clean. I think when people are complaining about the new UI, like they don't
They've not
realize
played
why
it.
the PC. It needs to be clean. Like it's fiddly playing with the controller, right? There's no. That's completely the case. But other than that, the console version is clean. Like, and the new version doesn't even look that much like it.
Right. So is sorry again. This might be the next episode. By the way, I'm trying to think. Oh no, the next episode is not this. The next episode is an absolute banger. It's Tom FM is the next episode. The episode after this is going to be FM console /touch/ whichever version I get my hands on. But is this touch one? Touch is the console. Essentially, is that right?
I think they're pretty close.
Okay.
I'll have to try it.
Cool.
They are sold as different versions, but and on Switch it says touch rather than console.
Okay.
But it might just be a case of different control schemes. I think there is something slightly different. I think you can't load as many leagues and you can't play as many seasons or something
you
like
can
that.
load up to 5.
So I think there's more like some data limitations
Yeah.
rather than actual gameplay
Yeah,
limitations.
but that's like it's saying that I can upload up to 5. That's good.
Okay,
enough.
yes, so it's
5 on
less
the
leagues,
mobile
so
as well, wasn't it?
You can do 10 on the console.
I genuinely feel like I've got my save, and it's like I've just transported it into a mobile game. Like literally what I just said earlier. So I'm just changing roles, and it just feels like I'm playing Football Manager.
Yeah, that looks identical to like the way the PC one. And,
Right, that okay. So that's the
I'm sorry,
episode
chat,
then.
I'm
And I think
sorry,
everyone who's okay. So everyone who's listened to this episode, okay, will obviously have their preconceived ideas of FM Mobile. So what I'm sure we would all agree at this point: go and try it. Try FM Mobile. See what you think. It might be for you. It might not. That's completely fine. If it is or if it isn't, let us know in the comments though. Let us know what you think. Did it change your perspectives when you tried it? If you haven't tried it before. I'll say, for myself, I was expecting something different to what I got. Was I surprised? A little bit. Was I disappointed? I don't think I was disappointed. Would I play it again? Probably not, because I'm not a mobile gamer, but it was perfectly fine for what I needed it to be. And I was, again, those bits I was pleasantly surprised with. So, overall, I don't see enough reason to kick off about it. Si, what about your thoughts on it overall?
I think it has some way to go, especially as we're going to see it move into the. I mean, next year it's going to be the same game. I don't know how much they've dedicated to this year in terms of resources, but I think it's like it's serviceable. Like if you ask me to give it a rating, I would give Normal Football Manager a 8 or a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, there are definitely things that can improve. I would give this maybe a 6.5, 7, which is still a good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still be happy with it. But you know, it's not going to take over my life. If something better comes along, I'll turn my attention to that.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's solid. It would fill a void while I'm on holiday or while I'm away. Certainly, I think that would be a good time to play on it. But yeah, it's not like there is still just that little bit. I think it's just the filliness between the games. I found myself trying to get the, just go into the next game, and try not to engage with it too much because of the controls.
Okay, Aaron, what about yourself?
Well,
obviously now you don't care.
I know.
my head is genuinely I'm literally mind blown there. just how much it resembles the actual game. But yeah, like as a mobile game, again, standalone, it's a good game. This time, I don't want to say I was forced to play it, but I had to play it because we had to speak about it. So I did feel like sorry, but I did feel like once obviously you get past that barrier, you play for a few games and like you start getting used to things. It's just like it's a good mobile game. That's possibly where it ends at. It's a good mobile game. Now, how do you improve on that? Make it look like this. That's the only way I could. That's the only thing. I'm now confused why this isn't the mobile version. Like, I don't get why this is not now.
I think it doesn't run on older devices.
Yeah, it must be a processor thing, isn't it? Which again is probably an issue why some people are playing mobile rather than the desktop and laptop version, because
that's an excellent.
They have older technology, so
or Android devices or other phones.
Is it like a
because
processor
don't forget
or
that's Apple only, so it'll only be on iPhones and iPads. Whereas, like, for the mobile version, they have to make it work on Xiaomi's and Samsung's and Huawei's and
look at that.
It's so clean.
Yeah, 3D match engine and all sorts. It's good.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to see, and I think I've mentioned this before, one thing I'd like to see with mobile integration is they had it on the Xbox on Madden years ago. I don't know if it's still in there. There was Xbox Glass, I think it was, they had. And you could pull your playbook up on your mobile, and you could then, like, sort of, instead of having it on the bottom of the screen. So say you're playing, like, against your mate in the house,
in the real game, in the full game.
And when you're playing against your mate in the house, you can see each other's playbooks on the bottom. So if you wanted to, you kind of like have a little nosy about what they're going to play. But you could have it on your mobile, and you can have the full playbook, and you could type in what your play is going to be, and then it loads up on the screen. So that would be quite cool to have as a sort of an additional device there, where you could have your assistant manager in your mobile. I don't really understand how it would probably work, but maybe it would be a bit of a superfluous thing. But for me, that's a way to potentially integrate mobile technology if you're going to do it.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, particularly for some of these competitive competitions. That might be kind of cool. That are coming
That'd be
up.
quite good, wouldn't it? Getting your assistant manager to be like texting you in things would be quite good. Okay, cool. Well, I quite like that. That's a pretty solid episode, I think. I think, Si, you're off to a good start here. I want to say that's 1 for 1.
We're going to get everyone right in and say, why are they talking about mobile version and console version? I don't care about those. So yeah, I'm already going to be out the door next week. That's what.
Well, it is Football Manager, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can't.
That's what I thought. We can't not talk about. I mean, there's more Football Manager than the desktop. We have to talk about these other versions. We have to at least experience them. Like, if we're gonna have any authority on talking about these games, we have to at least experience the other versions.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And if you do agree with us or disagree with us, why not come and say it to our face at one of the live shows we've got coming up shortly?
That was a good one.
There's TJ calling people out. Going, come on.
I was thinking, whoa. Maybe just got to Tony.
That's why I brought Si in the strength in numbers. Yeah, no, we've got a couple of live shows. Tickets are on sale now for Nottingham Comedy Festival on the 5th of November, and also Birmingham on the 27th of October. We might get some more dates for other venues around the country. Fingers crossed, we are working on it. Let us know where you want us to come if you, of course, don't live in Birmingham or Nottingham. I'm aware that's two very specific places to be. There's lots of other parts of the world we haven't really touched yet, other than two cities in the Midlands. Let us know in the Discord. Let us know on social media. I would ask Aaron to do the social media, but he's busy playing this game. Si, I'm going to let you plug the social media first of all. Do you know the tags by now?
The FM show on everything.
Close. The FM show pod. He's fully part of the team. He doesn't know either.
Yeah. Confirmed. he's one of us.
Yeah, the FM show pod on all of the social media. If you've got some long form correspondence, it's the FM show pod at gmail.com. Drop us an email, particularly things like Tactics Garages, for example. I know we're coming towards the end of FM24, but Tactics Garage is good. FM Confessions are quite good as well. Remember, we used to do those, so bring those in as well. I will do one more shout out before we do Patreon. Good friend of ours and wonderful human being, WhyCallums, organised a community meetup in Slough, of all places, last week. He basically started a save via our friend's side, the non-league football shop. They did a non-league mystery shirt box. Callum bought that. They do an FM one. He got given a Slough shirt, which is quite handy because he's a big fan of The Office. He took charge of Slough. He has had quite a lot of interactions with the club. They've been really, really good to him. And for the last 2 years, he's gone and they've organised a meet-up with some FM people from the community. Had a great time. And they actually let him manage the friendly this time. So he's got a video coming out. Football Manager to Football Manager. We'll put a link for the teaser in the description, so go and give that video some love and drop a follow on Callum if you can do. Can't wait to see what it looks like. It's going to be exceptional, I imagine. Aaron, once this episode finishes, we go straight into Patreon, exclusive content. Do the Patreon plug. Come on, you can do this. I believe in you.
Make sure you go to patreon.com/the FM Show Pod. That's patreon.com/the FM Show Pod, where you can support the channel from as little as £3. But if you're a little skeptical, don't worry. There is a trial there. You can trial the Patreon. Come and check us over. Come on.
Yeah, try before you buy. Free 7-day trial. Trials, yeah, just go in, have a little look. You've got exclusive access to bonus content that gets done every single week. You get early access to the public episodes. There is the back catalogue on there as well. There's some specials on there where we've watched Goal 3 and we've watched Shaolin Soccer. And there's a couple of live shows on there as well. You get access to all of that straight away, Si, for free for 7 days, and then after that it's at least £3. That's reasonable, right?
It's good. Do you know what? I listened to the Zealand Q&A because obviously I wasn't present for that episode. Fantastic. This week, Kev, or last week now by the time this comes out, last week, Kev, that was really good as well, about creating a community and things like that, like some really useful discussions and around how Kev is engaged with content creation and things like that around Football Manager. And I think like some of the other Patreon stuff, obviously I'm in some of it, so I'm going to
get loads more Maggio.
It's really good. Yeah, that's it. No, you don't turn people off. So let's 7-day free trial. I mean, you can at least go and binge it all. But yeah, I think it's really good. And there might be another way to access that all soon, which maybe we'll talk about in a future episode. But if not just Patreon, maybe here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, then obviously that doesn't apply.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. But yeah, hope you've all enjoyed it. I think that's been pretty decent there tonight. Enjoyed it. It's been good.
Yes.
Excellent. Right.
My head's still
We're going to put everyone's social media links in the description. Si, quick plug for yours before we go, because of course they know ours, but need to get familiar with yourself.
Yep. Maggio on everything except X, where it's Maggio FM.
There we go. Cool. And if you want some more of me and Si, we do the Football Shirt Social over on YouTube as well, where we talk about football kits. And of course, we're going to get our man RDF Tactics on at some point as well to go through his collection, because he's got quite a collection to talk about. Right. That's the end of this show. It's been awesome. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please come back. We will see you all next week. And if you're part of the Patreon, we'll see you in a few seconds when you load up the Patreon exclusive bit that comes straight after this. So take care of yourselves, everyone. We'll see you all soon. All the best. Bye for now.